Welcome back, Real Revolution family. Once again, Craig Williams is a guest with us today. Craig wanted to switch the tables a little bit. He wanted to know a little bit more about what it is we're doing here at Real Revolution, and asked me if we could kind of change the format. So, as your host, I guess I become the guest today, and Craig's going to kind of take over from here.
Yeah. So, like you said, I really want to just flip the tables, really. And I think it's one of those things that I heard once that somebody said to me, if you want to do something, the first step is to ask,
Yeah.
And I see this episode as being like the ask, what is the why, what is the what for this platform, and this, if we can get it out to the people of this audience, you never know, it might just happen, So that's kind of the idea. So I'd love to start off by, first of all, just doing a little bit of a dive into how you got to this point now in the real estate world, and then following on from that, what sort of problems did you identify which led to this platform?
Totally. Yeah. Well, for those of you that haven't seen any of our previous podcasts, Craig and I were both in the Royal Marines together back in the 90s and early 2000s, or at least for me. I came to the States in 2000, and Craig continued with his career. But after getting done with college, I joined Wells Fargo on their mortgage division. I'd interned with them, and it was a real easy segue, honestly. I'd already spent 6 months as an intern. They offered me a job, and straight out of college, it was good money, and it seemed like something I was kind of okay at as from a sales perspective. And that's really what it was. It was sales, and everything that we see on this platform is related to real estate, and in one way or another, it's related to sales and building relationships, which I feel like I'm pretty good at. I did mortgage for, oh my goodness, all the way up until 2008, 2009, when things went entirely pear-shaped, and it kind of it changed the industry a lot of ways, and many for the better. There was a lot of things going on in the industry that kind of led to the housing crisis, especially in subprime mortgage, credit issues. I'll give you a good example. I would take a trip up to Des Moines, Iowa, where one of our underwriting centers was. And I would go there to kind of, shake hands, kiss some babies, and just make sure we had good relationships with those folks, because they're servicing the country as a whole for underwriting. And I wanted to make sure that when I sent a file to underwriting from my branch, that they said, oh, yeah, it's Chris, the English guy, came up and saw us that time. And it just, give it warm fuzzies, it gets better treatment, whatever you want to call it. It's relationship building. But while I was up there on one of those visits, they were processing a subprime mortgage application, which got approved. And on the credit report, so, we got 7 C's of credit. On the credit report was collections for Blockbuster Video. So for the younger guests, Blockbuster used to be the go-to place on Friday and Saturday nights, and you go and get your VHS cassettes and go home and watch a movie with the family. Obviously, I think they're out of business now, other than I think maybe there's one in Alaska somewhere. There's one remaining outpost of Blockbuster Video, still like that. But Blockbuster Video had a collection for an outstanding VCR cassette, I'm assuming, on this guy's credit report. And it was for maybe $40 or $50. But there was also collections. There was also a charge on there for Pizza Hut. I don't know how that gets on there, but there was a charge for Pizza Hut. And some other kind of low-level things that are...
This wasn't my account, was it?
No, you're safe, mate. Well, yeah, it's redacted. I didn't check. But the point being that there's somebody that couldn't manage to pay these onesie-twosie bills of, a VCR cassette, just returning it, not even, you've already paid to obviously borrow the cassette at that point, and collections from small things like that. But it got approved. And that was kind of the writing on the wall for me, because Wells Fargo, being such a big organization, well-respected bank in industry, has stringent kind of credit criteria. I was seeing something that I felt, in hindsight, probably wasn't a good loan to make, but it fell into the criteria that was approvable, and it did get approved. And so that kind of, led me to think that maybe this isn't going to be so great after all, staying in mortgage. And I got out of mortgage for a while. I wanted a little bit more stability. And I ended up starting my own business, Restore Classic Cars. And I still do that to this day. I've got a business doing that. I would like to say that I'm doing the lion's share of the work on that, but I'm really not. I've got some really good guys and gals that work with me. They are the kind of the craftsmen, the people doing the things that make these vehicles look amazing at the end of it. And I would be the face of the company. I'm the person that you talk to. I'm the guy that's making it all come together and making it happen. And I've done that since getting out of mortgage. Now, in the meantime, I got my real estate license. Works a little different in the UK, mate, but basically over here, your real estate agent is responsible for kind of representing the buyers and the sellers. There's commission associated with that, and that's all it is. There's no salaried jobs. That's starting to change a little bit. There are some companies that are starting to do some kind of models that are a little different, but basically it's all commission. It's your own business. You work under a license, under a broker, but depending on the situation, the broker could be a huge assistance, or it could just be somebody that's maintaining office expenses, the error and emissions insurance, and the things that you need to do your day to day. So it's kind of all over the board. But again, you have to be a self-starter. You have to be able to go out and search the business out and do that. So fast forward to today, when this pandemic hit, we've all experienced it. I speak to my mom most days back in the UK. She's a nurse over there, and she's saying how heavily affected the UK is. The US, we're taking the lead, and we're beating everybody in cases of corona and all that stuff. And joking aside, I don't mean that to be disrespectful for those that have experienced it. My mother actually got the coronavirus, and it's just on the back end of recovering from that. But we've obviously seen some huge numbers over here in the US, and we've been really, my wife and I, Ariel, we've been really kind of strict about following those protocols and just trying not to expose people or ourselves. And it's given us some really, I'd say, good time at home to reflect and redirect our efforts in business and what we're doing. Right now, the car business is slow to still, and more to do with parts availability. All my parts, not all, but 99% come from the UK. And I would wager that 99% of their parts come from China. So this supply chain of parts coming to me to be able to restore vehicles is dried up for the time being. In addition to that, we've seen huge losses in the stock market, which are starting to bounce back a little bit. But those losses translate into a lower portfolio, and the target customer for me or client is somebody that's comfortable spending $150,000 to $250,000 on a vehicle that might get driven 6 times a year. That's the guy that I'm working with typically. They're not buying cars right now. They're protecting their assets and just making sure that their money is safe. And I totally get it. So from our real estate side of things, business hasn't stopped. It's changed. Showing houses and houses being available on the market has slowed down significantly, but people are still buying. And it's just we're doing business a little differently. But it's given us the opportunity here at home or at the home base to look at different ways of doing business. And some of the things we've done, we joined several Facebook groups, which were useful in many ways, but also a distraction in many other. And we started thinking about it. My wife works with me, and she also works with her mother. They do a lot of customer support, and they work with some internet entrepreneurs. And so we kind of get a different insight to some of the programs that are out there. And what we saw being a part of these groups was, look, theoretically, it's a great platform. You join this Facebook group, and it's like-minded people, and it's people in the same industry, and you can ask questions and people can answer. But what we've noticed is that that's maybe where the group started, and it's taken this kind of slippery slope into funny memes and silly photographs about, hey, check out this listing. Isn't that funny? There's two toilets facing each other, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not really generating business, and it's not putting you in a position to improve on what you already have. And so what we wondered is, was there a place that we could fill a void out there to provide a platform for real estate professionals to be members of, and to be able to communicate and ask those same questions they're asking in their groups, but without all the fluff and the noise and the distraction that you see currently if you're in Facebook. It may be that, in the sidebar something's binging up, and now you're looking at a singing dog or a roller skating monkey. Who knows? But there's a gazillion different ways that you get distracted and sidelined and taken away from what should be the focus, which is how do we drive more business? How do we pivot in this environment? How do we change things so that we are growing? We're thriving. We're not just surviving. And through these kind of conversations and through these discussions, we came up with a Real Revolution platform. The idea being that now we have this space for real estate professionals to come, exchange ideas, be able to refer to other agents throughout the country, instructional materials, stuff that really helps career development, whether it be from a technology standpoint, whether it be from discussions like we're having right now, or the one we had the other day as far as outsourcing and how to go about that and how to get started. I think it's a place where people can focus, still have the interaction that we're looking for, still have, conversations with people, whether they be colleagues, whether they be on the other side of the country, heck, even the other side of the world, honestly. And this would be the space for it,
Yeah, I think it's a great point. You're right. I think people, when they're on Facebook, they're there predominantly for entertainment.
Right.
Well, from what I know of you of the past, you were no nonsense. Let's get this done, and then we'll have fun later. And it seems from what you're saying there that you're bringing that to the real estate world through the Real Revolution. What about the Facebook algorithm? Is the idea of your platform to beat sort of the Facebook algorithm as well, or?
Well, so honestly, mate, we're early days, right? We're in this kind of beta stage, and things will be tweaked and adjusted, and a lot of that will come back from audience participation. So if you're seeing something that's not currently available, or you think that it would make sense to do, we'll seek that input from the members. But we're really not even necessarily trying to compete with that Facebook algorithm. I'm really trying to give you a place that is all business. You can still have that lighthearted banter and back and forth, but we get rid of the memes. We get rid of just the nonsense, and we focus purely on how do I improve my own skill set? How can I help maybe somebody else? There's a lot of times on a platform like this to where somebody asks a question, and again, going back, there's no such thing as a daft question or a stupid question. And then if you're asking the question, somebody else is probably wanting to know the answer. But it's a platform that really is based around business and real estate business. There are a lot of changes going on right now, and it could be something as simple as mortgage criteria guidelines have updated. You can't get a jumbo loan. Where can I find a lender that's still lending from maybe a small bank? And that little piece right there might be enough between making and breaking a deal. It could be tens of thousands of dollars in commission for somebody. Or it could be something as simple as, man, I'm struggling generating new business, new leads. What are some ideas that you guys are using right now to generate business? Or one idea we came up with recently here in-house, I've got a really good friend who is a professional chef. He's a personal chef. And some of the listing appointments that we've gone on for $1 million plus properties, how can we differentiate? How can we do something different on that property? Well, we're going to have him go in and do a professionally edited video piece that is him cooking in the kitchen in this really nice house. And what it's really doing is highlighting the homeowner's kitchen. it's differentiating that properly enough to where we get more clicks on target, and hopefully that leads to a sale sooner rather than later. So it's a lot of different things, mate, honestly, but it's things that I think are necessary in the current environment, and just something that's not already out there. And it's something that will probably be a really nice thing to have in the back pocket for a lot of brokers and agencies, to where if you work for a small brokerage, for example, that person is going to be responsible, and the same in a big brokerage, but big brokerage probably have more support on the training side of things. But small brokerages typically are a tighter ship in that they don't have the big resources of, say, the Keller Williams or the Remaxes of the world. And this platform will fill a lot of those blanks in, and hopefully open up a lot of opportunity for a lot of different people.
Just sort of thinking back to when you was working in mortgage, and is it a lonely place sometimes?
It really, yeah. So I worked for Wells Fargo for the majority of the time I was doing mortgage. And then I stepped out on my own and worked with what's called a net branch. So I was a mortgage banker still. I wasn't a mortgage broker. There is a difference, but it's not something that we need to delve into. But I officed at home. So I converted a spare bedroom, and I guarantee you probably 60, 70% of the people we're talking to today have that same office. And yeah, it was a relatively lonely place, as in it's just you, yourself, and you. And you're alone with your thoughts, and and then the client's on the end of the phone. Now, for some people like me, I kind of like that. I've got a very small sphere of people that I like to spend real time with, my wife, my kids, and close friends and family. But for a lot of people, they need that interaction. And again, the social aspect of this platform feeds back into that, in that, look, you're not alone. You're not out on an island on your own. There are a lot of people in the same boat. How do we work together? We are competition, but that doesn't mean that we can't collaborate at the same time. There's enough business for everybody, and there always will be, whether it be an up market or a down market. People are selling and buying all the time, and it just, we just roll with the punches, I guess. But this platform may alleviate some of the symptoms for some folks that are now kind of stuck at home, trying to generate business, or trying to figure out what's my next step. What do I do? The analysis paralysis almost kicks in, I think, for a lot of folks that are not comfortable being at home. And you can sit and think about it for 24 hours and not do a thing of action. And hopefully this platform will be an outreach post for those people as well.
And do you have like a 3-month plan, a 6-month plan? I mean, what's the roadmap for the next sort of 12 months?
Yeah. So beta testing, starting in Texas and starting with real estate agents. Once we've established that everybody is happy, and I think that's probably going to be a one month to 6 week kind of window, 4 to 6 weeks. We'll iron out any kinks that we kind of see in the system. We'll add content that people are asking for. We're going to ask for feedback. There'll be polls within the system. We can add training courses, for example, if there are certain things that folks are looking for. I'm going to say probably lead gen and where do I get my business from is going to be the biggest one, because we're all looking for that next deal. And then as we grow, we'll do a national rollout, which probably within the next 6 weeks or so. Once we've rolled out nationally, again, starting with real estate agents, and then we'll start reaching out to mortgage providers. And from there, we'll probably reach into title companies, home inspectors, folks that are going to be useful in any transaction. These are people that we talk to on every single deal. But don't necessarily play a major role on being on this platform necessarily. But when you need one of those professionals, when you need somebody that, somebody that does sheetrock work in the Austin area, because, I've got this listing, but my God, somebody punched a bunch of holes in the sheetrock and it needs fixing. Or could it be, hey, I've got a client that's got some kind of issues as far as from a lending basis. We need somebody who's a little more creative on the financing, maybe a small bank, maybe somebody that's doing private money. It just increases your Rolodex from where it is right now to really endless supply of contacts.
Who are some of the other key people, perhaps behind the scenes, that probably warrant a mention?
Yeah, well, I would say first and foremost that'd be my wife Ariel, and then my mother-in-law Sharon. She has been just a wealth of information for us. My mother-in-law's ran her own customer support business for well over a decade, and she's got some really well-known clients out in the entrepreneurial sphere. She works a lot with Mike Dillard. He's a self-made man, and from the conversations that we've had, breaking bread around the dinner table, we moved within the last year to within a mile of us. We live on this little golf course, and she lives on it as well. And it's been great, but it's allowed us to kind of, as a family, be together almost every day if we wanted to be. And I'm fortunate that I've got really, really good in-laws. And not in a position that a lot of folks are like, why would you move your in-laws so close to you? But it's worked out great. And so both my wife and my mother-in-law are instrumental in that. And then for us as a business, we've got a lot of other realtors that we've kind of consulted with, and heavy hitters in the Austin market and the Dallas markets that are doing really well. And kind of consulted on is this something that you could see being useful for you? And the resounding answer is yes, absolutely, and especially for my teams. And a lot of times for newer team members, just to be exposed to a whole bunch of information, but having the ability to look that information up too. I'm sure there's ways you can search in Facebook groups, but what we've got set up here is extremely simple. If you've got a question, you can go ahead in the search bar. There's a good chance that it's already been asked, and it'll extrapolate that information for you. And if it hasn't, then you just pop up the question, and it's going to get asked by the group. It's that kind of social mind. You do way better with that hive mentality than you do with just being the lone gun.
Yeah, the power of we. I've heard it called before.
Yeah.
We will all achieve much more. So if you could ask the people watching this to do two things: one thing inside the platform and one thing outside the platform, what would those two things be?
I think within the platform, I'd say don't be a lurker. Just don't be afraid to ask questions. This isn't going to be the group's going to be moderated, and it's going to be moderated to make sure that when somebody posts a question, even if it seems like a ridiculous question to you, it doesn't necessarily mean it is to somebody else. It needs to be a place that's safe from criticism, and a place where when you ask that question, it's going to be answered politely, And if we see behaviors that are really not in line with our kind of group guidelines, then we'll address that within the group, and we'll make sure that's not something that goes forward. Outside the group, and again, the bigger the hive, the better the information that we're going to be able to share. So if you're enjoying the content, share it with a friend, share it with a colleague. Again, we start with 100, 1,000, 10,000 people. You grow and grow and grow. There are so many more people that are going to be able to answer questions and provide insight and expert information and knowledge.
Well, it's been a great little insight for me. I don't know if there's anything that I should have asked you that you want to get across.
There's always next time, mate. I think we have at least covered the high notes today, and there's so much more with the platform. But it's going to be an ever evolving animal, and we're really going to be wanting input from our members. And again, I think within 6 months it'll be a real game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely a place for coming and getting a bit of support, bit of advice. Yeah, quite excited to see it grow.
Awesome. Well, look, I know you got stuff to do back there in sunny old England, mate. I'll leave you to it, but let's catch up later on, and look forward to seeing you in the belly of the beast.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to stop calling it sunny old England. But, yeah, definitely. See you again soon.
All right, sounds good, mate. Talk to you soon. Bye.